Welcome to the Coast to Coast podcast, brought to you by Play Picks and the Lines. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by my guy Nate Weitzer on the East Coast. And we're rolling along in these NBA playoffs. We've got a player props video here for you guys. We are going to be bringing you every single playoff game as well with some game videos each and every day of this postseason. So do make sure and and subscribe to that page. You can continue to follow along with us. Also want you to head over to thelines.com. Make sure you're getting the best odds out there as you shop those NBA player prop lines and get the best odds available from our props tool there on thelines.com. Also have a opportunity for you guys to win a $25 Amazon gift card if you head to play.thelines.com. And that's where we do have our NBA Daily Challenge. If you guys get every single one of those correct, we will send each and every one of you who does a $25 Amazon gift card. And as always, if you do still need a FanDuel or DraftKings account, head to fdpicks.com or dkpicks.com. Find those listings in your area, such as what we've got for tonight's play props. Nate, let's get into it.
Yeah, I'm sticking to my guns here on the Ant-Man, Anthony Edwards, who came up a little short after a very slow start in game two. I mean, the Wolves just didn't get off the bus and they were blown out, yet he still played 34 minutes and got 20 points with a higher usage rate than in game one. A 29% usage rate, went 4 for 10 from three yet again. He's hit a lot of threes against this Grizzlies team. In his last 5 before he had a dud in February against Memphis, he was shooting 64% from deep and it hit 24 triples against Memphis, which will pack the paint, dare you to beat them from deep. And because of all the trouble they had with Cat in game one, I mean, Ant was also trouble, but you can adjust to try to keep Cat from beating you on those drives. You're just going to live with Anthony Edwards taking these ridiculously tough step backs, and he's going to keep taking them. The coach is not going to rein him in, Chris Finch, and for good reason, because he's a young star, and that's how he gets going. So he's only 24.5 points, good odds for the over there. Don't mind adding 5 rebounds there in what could be a more physical game, but I think he's just a pure scorer. And if you're going to take the 24.5 points, maybe plus 240 for him to get all the way up to 30, closer to game one where he had 36 on 12 for 23 field goal shooting. At home, since the All-Star break, his usage rate was higher, 26%. Efficiency lower, though, 28% from three. But like I mentioned, he likes playing Memphis. And he was a plus 31 at home versus a minus 19. That led to playing 5 fewer minutes per game because of more blowouts. Well, Memphis is not going to be blown out, I don't think, on the road here. So full slate of run, full competitive game, and Ant posting that near 30% usage rate. I like him to get 25 points.
That's fair. Yeah, he's going to have another 30-point game, at least one more in this series, if not a couple. And I do think his averages will continue. He's the only guy that even looked explosive on offense at any given point in time. It wasn't early on, but he did, still manage to salvage 20 points in a game where he did not. Nobody played well for the Timberwolves, and I think you got to expect a bounce back game, especially for the young guy at home. Moving on to another young guy, Jordan Poole here. Can't stop taking him. I mean, he's averaging 29.5 points in this series, and his points prop tonight is 22.5, which gets you minus 108 on FanDuel. He's also at his 3-point prop there is 2.5, which is very likely for him to hit. So it's minus 135. You could do an alternate line on that one. Say he's going to hit 4 threes, and it's still about plus, I believe you get plus 125 on your money there on FanDuel. So slightly alternate line on his threes sounds nice. I actually like combining the two there. I've got a little same game parlay on FanDuel I'm considering where he hits over 2.5 made threes and gets those 22.5 point, or I'm sorry, no, his assists is the other thing I like, because I also want to consider his points and assists. Apologies, let me make that very clear. His assist numbers right now, it's really he's got 5.5. He's averaging 5.5, right? 11 in these first 2 games. He's got his prop tonight is only at 3.5, which gets you minus 144. That 2.5 3 prop, by the way, also gets you about minus 170 on FanDuel, or flip flop those odds. But either way, it's 2 really bad odds there. You combine those two, which I think are both super likely for him to get 4 assists, 3 and 3 made threes, you get plus 161 on your money. You could do any 3 of those bets any kind of number of ways: the points, assists, and the 3-pointers made, and I would feel good about all of those. I mean, like I said, 29 and a half, basically 30 points a game so far in the first 2. He's getting the minutes. I don't know what's going to happen necessarily yet in game 3 in terms of Steph starting or not starting. I don't think it matters at this point. They want those 3 on the court together with Clay, Jordan Poole, and Steph. And then you've got, obviously Draymond's going to be in there, and then either Wiggins or Iggy as that 5th person in that small ball death lineup that they've brought back. Poole's going to be in there. It doesn't matter if he's starting or not. I do think he'll continue to start because Steph off the bench seems to be the most insane secret weapon that we didn't know about yet. But there's just so much fun that they can have with this lineup, and Poole's going to continue to eat because these guys are also having fun watching him eat, man. That's why you'll see in a minute I might consider under on another Warriors player because there's going to be stats eaten up by the fact that Jordan Poole is not only going to be continuing to score, he's playing facilitator role, and they're happy to let him do that and get that experience in the playoffs.
Yeah, adding a facet to their offense that they didn't necessarily have in this first run and making it even tougher for them to defend them. And like you said, yeah, if he does switch back to coming off the bench, then he's going to face Denver's extremely thin bench, at least initially with that second unit, and get some Campazzo or Austin Rivers on him and have his way there getting some points. So love that one. In Utah, we don't know if Doncic is going to play or not, so we are basically picking from the Jazz guys here. And while Donnie Mitchell has continued to fill it up every playoff game, he's got a clear partner in the 2-man game. It's Bojan Bogdanovic. The two of them have taken 65% of Utah's shots in this series. So that is a ridiculous combined usage rate. Bojan at 21.5 points is even money, or the 2.5 threes is negative odds, but plus 200 if you want to get one more 3 in there, plus 270 if you want to get 4 threes in a win, which you could probably count on if Luka is not able to play. Dallas is 5 percentage points worse from 3 on the road versus at home. Maxi Kleber is playing more, and he is not a great defender. But they need him for his offense. And Bojan in the playoffs at home, his last 7 outings here, we mentioned in the game video, Utah's gone over in 8 straight home playoff games. Bojan averaging 21.7 points and hitting 3.5 threes at a 45% clip. And also his last 5 against Dallas, including these 2 playoff games, 23 points per game, 25% usage, shooting 57% from the floor. So I just like him, with Utah's needing at least somebody to keep that defense honest. So you can't just triple team Donnie Mitchell. I like him to capitalize on that and keep scoring.
Yeah, I'm happy. We both like Utah to score points tonight. As we mentioned in that game video, I'm happy to take both Donnie Mitchell and Bojan and some Rudy Gobert props in there as well. Maybe not points, but we mentioned a double and a win. There's some good stuff here on player performance doubles for Dallas for Utah, as we do like them to pull this game out. And I think we like those performances from both those players. Bojan has a nice little weird 23 points and a Utah win gets you plus 182. Or you look at Donnie there with plus 160 for him to get 30 points and a W. I like both of those for the Jazz tonight, and then to get over that 109.5 as well. And then last pick here, I'm going with an under, and it is what I foreshadowed in the Jordan Poole pick. But Draymond is getting some of his stuff, his stats in time, getting eaten into by the fact that they can put Jordan Poole out there, and they have a facilitator outside of Steph who can. This is the best shot creator and athlete going to the rim that Steph has had on his team since Monta Ellis, who obviously we know wasn't really worth keeping around. But my point is Jordan Poole is just it's somebody to play off of Steph in a way that's great. But Draymond also, that does decrease the need for him to necessarily be getting assists. Yeah, I mean, you look at Draymond's last 10. I mean, he's only averaging 28 minutes a game. We're talking about 8 points, 6 boards, 6 assists. That doesn't get you to 23 points, rebounds, and assists. His last 10 versus Denver overall, I mean, he's battling Joker in such a way that it's also not surprising, right? He's shutting him down as far as as much as anyone can shut the Joker down. It does help that the Joker can't really pass to anybody that he feels comfortable will score once he gives it to them. But it does obviously just help Draymond continue to just box him out, let others get the boards, as he hasn't gotten double-digit boards yet or against Joker in those last 10 games that he's played against Denver. And when he gets to Denver as well, all the stats that when he plays Denver in Denver, when he plays Denver in general, when he plays Joker anywhere, he doesn't get 23.5 points, rebounds, or assists, or he doesn't get 24 before, I should say, right? So I think that's a safe under here, despite the fact that we still kind of like the Dubs to get their points.
Yeah, and that's my bad for suggesting him in game 2 in terms of getting over these props. But yeah, he's really just focusing on the defensive end of the floor and boxing out for other guys and just holding the Joker in check. So that's why if you're going to take a Draymond bet, I would like the over 2.5 steals and blocks at plus 115.
With that one, yeah.
I think, yeah, defensive player of the year, if you played the whole year, and he's going to be all over captaining that end of the floor and then, letting those other guys, those splash bros, handle the offense.
A 1-1 series tie here with Dallas headed to Utah. Obviously, the biggest storyline will continue to be a player who's not on the floor, Luka Doncic, who doesn't seem like he's coming back for game 3 either, but he might be back on the horizon. Now we know there's 5 games in this series. He might be back for the 5th one. We're not sure. But we'll look at what we do have and what we do know. What we do know is Utah is at home where they play better. I mean, the spread indicates that 7.5 here. And yeah, a total that might be exploitable depending on how you feel about Dallas's ability to continue to come along with Utah, who we know scores a lot of points at home. So what are we looking at in this one here, Nate, with a pretty big spread, bigger than we usually like to bet. And like I said, a somewhat exploitable total, at least maybe on a team total side.
Right. The question, can Dallas come along, is really the question you have in a lot of playoff games is, were they lucky or were they good? Like Dallas, this doesn't seem sustainable that in game 2 they went 22 for 47, nearly 50% from 3. They only committed 3 turnovers. And of course, Jalen Brunson had a career night, 41 points with a 145 offensive rating. They were outshot at the free throw line, 13-30. They were out rebounded 50-31 and outscored in the paint as well by a hefty margin. So maybe they solved some things with this Jazz defense, which is generally disinterested on the road. But now as we shift back to Utah, I have a hard time imagining Utah loses this game. Unless, of course, Luka is a full go. Now, I mean, you said unlikely to go. I think you're right there. They're cautiously optimistic, they said, after he played some one-on-one in practice on Wednesday. But the usual timetable for a calf strain would give him about 3 or 4 more days before he's ready to go. I think he might come back in game 2 after they probably don't pull this one out. So talking about that Utah home road stuff, I mean, they went 8-2 at home after the All-Star break versus 5-10 on the road, scored 14 more points per game. Defensive rating 8 points better per 100 possessions, pace 4 possessions faster as well. Interesting home playoff numbers. They went under in 6 straight, but in their last 8, once the Clippers started cracking them, right, putting on film how you destroy that defense, over in all 8 of those games, 3-4-1 against the spread, scoring 119, but giving up 117 with a 123 defensive rating. I would definitely not bet on Dallas reaching this total again, getting up to 110, which is where they hit in game 2. But I would bet on Utah scoring 109 is their team total here. Minus 120 are the odds there. But if you don't love those odds, then just take the Jazz money line and the over in this game, because I think they score in the 115 or higher range, get us to about 210, whether Dallas is able to come along or not. We talked about it, before game 2, Maxi Kleber playing a lot more, and that's definitely good news for your over. It's because he's a sharpshooter, but he posted a 120 defensive rating while hitting those 8 threes. And Utah, with Donnie Mitchell, they're just playing that 2-man game with Donnie Mitchell and Bojan, and it's working. At home, it works a lot better. And Dallas slightly worse guarding the 3-point line, actually 5 percentage points worse guarding the 3 on the road. So with Utah able to spread them out, drive and kick, and they're going to get more than a 0 from Mike Conley, which is what they got in game 2. So I think Utah gets the offense rolling here. The pace, a little scary slow in those first 2 games in Dallas, but they can dictate that pace a little bit more now that they're home, which, again, in those last 8 playoff games, a nice 95 pace, decent for a playoff game where they went over in 8 straight and averaged 236 combined there.
Yeah, and I'll start off my bit here with an apology to J Kidd again. We have to make it enough times. We talked enough trash on him. We have to apologize enough times. And maybe he watched the podcast because when we talked about exactly what he did in game two, ahead of that game two, we were mentioning, why would you have Dwight Powell in there for 30 minutes if he's not able to? It's not like he's guarding Rudy down low and effectively. Rudy's not getting the ball down low. Plus, you're not getting anything from Powell on offense. He didn't even attempt a 3-pointer in game one. And so we both were just kind of like, well, this is a pretty easy, logical next step for you, J Kidd. Just play Maxi Kleber. He's not going to play defense on Rudy Gobert either, because he won't have to. Not that he could if he wanted to, but he won't have to. And then you need someone who's going to pull the three. I didn't know he was going to do it to the tune of what was he, 8 of 10 from three in the game. I didn't know that was going to, or well, yeah, he missed one, but all of his field goal attempts were from three. He went 8 for 11. He was incredible. That's all they needed from him. Why would he take a shot in the post? I mean, everybody's running into the post against Utah and then not going up with it, which is really, what Utah's calling card has been. And it's working right now against a Dallas team that they don't have the 3-point shooting without Luka. They need him on there to not only be a shooter, but once you put the ball in the hands of Dinwiddie or Brunson, you just took one of your spot up shooters away that you would normally have. So it's just a matter of how many guys you have in there that you feel comfortable with. Once you put Kleber in there, now between he and Bullock, Brunson, Dinwiddie, at least you have the shooting, because once these guards, which Brunson and Dinwiddie are just getting by Clarkson and Mitchell, like they're not even standing there, to be honest. But once they get into that paint, they're terrified, as they should be, of 7'2" Rudy Gobert, but neither of those guys, especially Brunson, are really tall enough or strong enough to go into his body and get the ball off. He'll just still be able to block it. So, I think that's going to continue for them, and that means that they need to rely on their 3-point shooting, which is too do or die at this point. At this point, Utah's game plan is clear: run them off the line, and that's all they have to do. The problem is now Rudy's guy is going out for those dish, drive and dish threes, which means he's either got to make a decision to guard that 3-pointer or stay in the lane to force the kick to the 3-pointer. So they're going to have to figure out a better rotation there, or Donovan Mitchell, Mike Conley, and Jordan Clarkson are going to have to play something that resembles defense at some point on the wing. Otherwise, they're just going to keep getting blown by, and you can keep expecting guys like Brunson to get 30-plus points. So in this one, though, I think Utah's offense will just overcome everything we're saying, and Dallas's defense has been incredible, but this is not the matchup for them, as we know. I do like Utah's team total a bit more than the game total, just because if Dallas is not hitting threes, I don't trust them to come along, and I don't know that they'll have the same level of 3-point efficiency in this one, as that has to be a point of emphasis for Utah coming into this game to keep hold of things. But look, death taxes, Donnie Mitchell in the playoffs, I continue to love that bet. There might be the opportunity for some unders between Brunson or Dinwiddie, but one of them, like Dinwiddie did in the last game, and Dinwiddie's the one who really, if he's at 21.5 points again or so with his player prop, which I can just pull up really quick. I don't know why to do that in the first place. I'm sorry. That's because I can't find his right now, as we're still waiting on some news from Dallas, obviously. So good on me. But either way, if we're looking at like 21.5 without Luka for Dinwiddie, that would be another place that I consider an under, as his game, like I said earlier, is too predicated on needing to get to the rim to be able to open up that 3-point shot for himself. And people are happy to let him drive by them when he can't get into Rudy at all, and has not scored well from the paint this series so far.
Yeah, that's the biggest concern for Dallas. You nailed it, is that Dinwiddie is afraid to go all the way to the rim, and he doesn't have the same mid-range game as Brunson, who, as great as he is not going to be able to sustain that success, I don't think, to that same degree. I mean, his offensive rating jumped 50 points per 100 possessions from game 1 to 2, pretty much. I mean, he just had the game of his life. But I mean, I think we have to hold off on the spread here for sure. If you bet Utah -7 and Luka does play, you're kind of screwed. You're definitely in a bad position at that point. Yeah. I would definitely think you have to tease it if you're going to bet it early. But conversely, if you get Utah -3 and Luka does not play, you are definitely sitting pretty there. I would stick with that money line over parlay. I'd also look at, I like Rudy Gobert's props, even though he is not a huge offensive force. With Kleber out there playing so much, I think he gets his points. I mean, he's averaging 16 and 15 in his last 6 meetings with the Mavs. Averaged 19 and 16 basically in his last 7 regular season home games, and has a double-double in 19 of his 20 career playoff games at home. So double in a win is minus 118. That seems like a pretty much taking the money line without the over there. To just say, Rudy's going to control the paint. He's probably going to have like 15 boards. His prop is at that. I don't really want to bet that, but a lot of boards, a lot of blocks, and a lot of intimidation. Yeah, convincing Dinwiddie and Brunson not to go all the way to the rim, like you're saying, which then bogs up that Mavericks offense. And yeah, you do have a lot of concern about it without Luka being able to generate quality shots for them.
Right.
Then I definitely think this hinges on his status. It's not a huge limb there, but obviously you want to know what that situation is before you bet that spread.
Yeah, no, 100%. And the only thing that scares me about a Rudy double is he going to get 10 points, as most of his points just come off second chance points, and that's going to be. But they have to make Kleber pay. I mean, they have to make the Mavs pay for playing Kleber, right? If he's going to be out there.
And Utah had 11 offensive rebounds with that advantage, along with all those paint points in game 2. So, he could get those points on second chance,
That's fair, yeah. The points are more likely to come for him when Kleber's on the floor more, which it still took a few, till basically the second and third quarter, really the third quarter for J-Kidd to realize he needed to Kleber out there. We have the Warriors headed to Denver, taking on Jokic and the Nuggets. They do have Michael Jordan Poole do the Warriors, so you got to feel good about their chances right now. The kid's 5th in scoring in the playoffs at nearly 30 points a game. Also putting on a bit of a Harlem Globetrotter style show with his flashy passing in this last one. Yeah, they're just having a good time. Steph's coming off the bench, man. That's terrifying. Like, Steph Curry is already instant offense, and now you're going to put him in the role of creating instant offense. That's what you expect him to do. Sounds good, right? 34 points off the bench. So I think we have a lot to dissect in this one, but a lot of it starts with, can the Nuggets come close to stopping this offense? And if they can't even come close to stopping it, who is going to generate offense for them outside of Jokic, who only has 5 assists, 10 assists combined in these first 2 games?
Yeah, it's not looking good. It is kind of a simple. There's just plenty to talk about, but you can simply start with Denver is number 1 in 3-point defense on the road this season and 23rd at home, and they gave up 120 points per game in their last 10 home games here, playing with a 120 defensive rating, 10 points worse than they were on the road. So if they had that much trouble stopping the Warriors on the road, now we go back home where, like you mentioned, the avalanche is coming. Steph hitting threes, telling everybody he's back. He might re-enter the starting lineup, but either way, then you have Jordan Poole coming off the bench, and he's been on fire. So really, it's about. I think you're getting incredible value here for the Warriors -2. Now it's -2.5, but it's not getting bet up that quickly. Josh, you should probably take a break right after this and get your bet in.
Thank you.
But series spread 4 games, aka a sweep, is +195. You could maybe go hedge that with 5 games at +150, but I don't know if Denver can get a game here. They could if the Warriors just go cold from 3, but with those 3 guys, those 3 splash bros now, it's hard to get all of them to go cold. And another interesting market at FanDuel, Steph is +185 to have the most threes in the series. Right now he's tied with Clay with 8, and Poole has 10. He had a little head start, but Steph, if he's going to hit a bunch of threes and tell everybody he's back, you should probably listen to the man and back his shooting. The job that the Warriors have done defensively on Joker is incredible. We mentioned it before the series started that Draymond has kept him in check, held him to about 25 points per game in his career. And now, they're doing a great job giving Draymond support. And they're back to that elite defensive team that we saw that went under at such a high clip on the road at the beginning of the season. Of course, they didn't have all 3 of these guys now. So it is a little questionable whether we're going to go over. So I think just like we're saying with the Jazz, I would rather take the Warriors team total. It's 112 than the total for this entire game. But with such a negligible spread, it's not a hard decision to just say, I'll take the Warriors to win, by at least 2 points. And just rounding out that Joker talk. A 111 offensive rating for him in these first two games is a huge drop off. He was about a 137 down the stretch, the reigning MVP doing what he does. He posted a plus 19 during the regular season against the Dubs when he's on the floor, and he's a minus 45 in these first two games because Draymond didn't play in any of those regular season games. Yeah. And yeah, in the playoffs, you can really gamble on just making somebody else beat you. The Warriors, so seasoned, they know how to do that. And right now, the Nuggets don't have anybody else who can beat them. And I think with the Bulls winning a game last night at the Bucks, the Nuggets are officially the worst team in the playoffs. So bet against them.
That's so sad and true. All the last of the bits that you just threw out there, it sucks. I mean, yeah, everyone owes DeMar an apology. Not us. We never talk trash on DeMar on this show, but everyone else does because he went clear off last night to be the best player in that game. So shout out to him. But yeah, I mean, this is not the Denver Nuggets of the first 2 months of the season. It's wild how big of a difference that they, in terms of their offensive or their defensive effectiveness and impact at home to start the season. First 2 months, we're talking a top 2 defense at home. Actually, the best defensive rating for the first 2 months of the season from the first game through the month of December, and then giving it the second least amount of points at home, only second to the Warriors, which is not surprising. Which leads you to understand why it was not surprising that the Dubs were able to hold Jokic and company in check. But yeah, I lean. It's interesting because I lean Warriors team total over. I'm not leaning Nuggets team total under in this game like I was in the other two games, but that is what we were calling, which is also why we were happily calling for a blowout. Not at least in double digit spreads were not really scary in those first two games, right? In this one, you still expect the Dubs to be able to score, and that's what we said. Is the question is if the Nuggets are not going to be able to score, which we don't think they're going to. I think they'll be better. Role players are generally better at home as well. Will Barton is currently their second best offensive player, and obviously probably second best player at this point. And he scored 12 in that last game and looked completely disinterested, to be honest with you. And Monta Morris just still. I mean, he was doing all right. He had some nice shots here and there, but also I think he had 12 points as well. So there's just no help for Joker, and he's going to come out firing tonight. I'm not willing to take an under on him anymore at 51.5, but points, rebounds, and assists, I would say. But I'm not scared of it. I'm not telling you anybody not to take it because, Draymond on him right now is a problem. And he's also in his head with just how annoying he's being, as you saw Joker get tossed in that game too. But yeah, you look at what Dre's done when he's guarding Joker, in this series, especially just keeping him, keeping his, like you said, his offensive rating down to about what it was 111 individually, where we've seen games where he's had like 134 individual offensive rating. And so it's just really why their team offensive rating is also just at 113, and that's just not going to cut it against a Dubs team who they're also playing really well on defense for sure. But it's about the fact that you're not going to be able to hang with them right now on offense. It's completely insane that they're a duo named the Splash Brothers, with the two greatest shooters of all time, have their third compadre come along with the last name of Poole. That's wild, but it's continuing to work, and it's going to continue to work, man. There's no perimeter defense for Denver right now that can handle that, and they were limiting teams to an incredible 3-point percentage, incredibly low 3-point percentage to start the season. Just not the case anymore at home, and I don't think there's much to like for them or much hope. The only last thing I would say here before I close my point about that is it is a team down 2-0. That is the most profitable bet in the NBA in the last 3 or 4 seasons in the playoffs, is when a home team comes back to their spot down 2-0 in game 3, they're going to win. They're going to cover the first quarter or the first half. If not both, at least that first quarter, because they're just going to come out roaring and they have everything to play for, and they have their crowd behind them. It worked in that Toronto Philly game, which Toronto nearly pulled off, but couldn't. But they did win those the first quarter and the first 2 quarters against the spread. I would consider it here just because it's them playing for their lives. But at the end of the day, that the game is going to end with the Dubs pulling this one out.
Yeah, if you like them to start strong, then look at the live betting for the Warriors, because that third quarter avalanche is back. You put in the new death lineup with 3 Splash Bros, Wiggins and Draymond, now a 129 net rating in 22 minutes this series. They can just go to that, or they can throw Iggy in there too. And like I said, he doesn't need to score at all to just be part of that avalanche that they will even produce on the road. And yes, a team down 2-0 has a lot of fight in them, but I mean, did the Clippers have a lot of fight in them in this play-in game, or did they lay down because they basically are waiting for next season because one of their best players tore his ACL. Because that's the exact same situation we're in now. And if you say Will Barton looked dejected or disinterested, the entire Nuggets staff staff and players should be just like, okay, yeah, I mean, we're gunning for the championship in 2023. Like, we don't have a chance this year. They should know that. It's completely out of reach. They're so thin, and they're going up against maybe the deepest team we have now that they have all these guys healthy. And there's just so many weapons that Steve Kerr can throw at them. Whereas, the Nuggets are just relying on their MVP and not much else. And, you got to think that the Warriors, as a playoff veteran team, are so aware of that 2-0 history. And I mean, they've had plenty of history of just sweeping teams, pounding teams, not giving them the room to get up and get some confidence. And they could definitely use that extra rest if they're able to win this series quickly and then get ready for Memphis and Minnesota after they duke it out.
Absolutely. It's going to be probably a fun game. I think at least it'll be fun when the Dubs are on offense. They're kind of back to that super fun style of play that sort of made them the darlings of the league. And I think they might be back to that. I don't really care if Steph's coming off the bench or not. Draymond on Joker, two superstars out for Denver, and the Dubs offense rolling. I think they're keen to get this series over with as fast as they can, as they're about to play the winner of a series in this next round that will be probably a grinded out series, as we talk about that Memphis Minnesota series there, and the winner will play the Dubs next. And I think if they get that, like you say, if they get that sweep and get some time off, this team is definitely good with rest. So I think that would help them there. And that is all the time we have for you guys in this one. Make sure you are liked and subscribed to that page. Continue to bring you guys each and every playoff game video, as well as that player props video. We love to bring you each and every day. So until we see you next, happy betting.